Welcome into the recruiting rundown here on Gamecock Central. Everybody, Kendall Smith and Wes Mitchell joining you here. We hope that you all are doing well. Wes, it has been a busy week for the Gamecocks. And let's just start off by talking about Landon Duckworth because we talk about him on every recruiting rundown show, but rightfully so. And finally, we are at the point where we can say Landon Duckworth will be a South Carolina Gamecock. He made his verbal commitment officially last Friday. He committed to South Carolina, and this really wasn't a huge surprise, but major credit to South Carolina for getting this done because, as we said last week on the show, it wasn't a sprint. It was definitely a marathon to land Duckworth. They got it done. I know the Gamecocks are happy. How do you feel about this commitment, Wes?
Yeah, obviously a big one. You're talking about a kid who's a top 10 quarterback in the country, regardless of what ranking set you're looking at. And, you had to battle other major SEC programs to land Landon. You look at one point, it looked like he was going to go play for Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. That sort of, that shifted a little bit. But then in the end, you had to beat out Auburn and an in-state school and a program that typically – when they really bear down on prospects in the state of Alabama, typically they have a lot of success. So for Carolina to go in there, use some of those ties that Darren Usher has to that state as well, and Landon was a big get for them. And this is a kid who has, as we've talked about, tremendous upside, big time potential, great athlete. If you throw on his huddle film, you're going to see him doing windmill dunks in basketball. I can't imagine there's many quarterbacks around the country that are doing that. And then he can throw the football too. I do think there's going to have to be some development on that part. But in terms of just physically being able to throw the football, he's got that as well. So obviously we've talked about him, like you said, many, many times. So that's because this kid was their top target at quarterback. And now they have him officially in the class.
Well, excited about that and excited about another commitment for South Carolina. Triston Lewis, an athlete out of Greenwood High School. He had such a unique story in how he committed to the Gamecocks. This was a couple days ago as well. And he is truly just one of those guys that knew right off the bat he wanted to go to South Carolina. He was at a travel baseball tournament and he got a call from Shane Beamer. He was out warming up, got a call that he saw he missed from Shane Beamer, called him back, and it was Coach Beamer offering him the opportunity to play at South Carolina. He didn't need months. He didn't even need days. He was just like, yes, I am ready to be a South Carolina Gamecock, and committed right then and there. And he's a guy, Wes, that you described as under the radar. And South Carolina is so good about finding these kinds of guys. You could even say that a guy like Lenoris Sellers really flew under the radar back during his recruitment. South Carolina obviously landed him, and we see how that's turned out for the Gamecocks. But Triston Lewis, why should people be excited about him, even though he maybe has flown under the radar a little bit throughout his recruitment process?
Yeah, we've seen Carolina have success moving guys, transitioning them from quarterback to defensive back, and that's what's going to happen here. So you are talking about a projection. You are talking about development is going to be necessary. So, no prospects are a sure thing. When you're talking about moving a guy, changing positions, you are projecting a little bit there. But I think just in terms of athleticism, the size-speed combination, the ability to just move within space. This is a kid who excels at other sports as well. Apparently, he's up to like 93 on the mound as a pitcher in baseball. So, multi-talented guy and someone that, while it happened quick in terms of the offer, South Carolina has sort of had him on their radar for at least a few months. They had him in camp. They had him at 7-on-7. They were sort of, I believe, looking to see if there was going to be room to bring him in. Because they were already very much down the road with several other defensive back prospects. And so when the opportunity to add another defensive back offer out there came up, he was the guy. And as you said, I think Gamecock fans have shown they very much appreciate someone who got the offer, said South Carolina is where I want to be. This is kind of a dream school for me. I'm going to hop on it. I'm not going to sit there and let the waters get muddied up. I'm not going to let something else possibly happen. This is where I want to be. I'm going to accept it, and I'm going to be a Gamecock. And certainly in today's era, there is something to be said for a guy who knows what he wants and just says, I'm going to take the scholarship while I have the chance to.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's such a great story. And just like you said, it's not that common nowadays in the world of college football. So for Lewis to be like, yep, I want to be a South Carolina Gamecock, I think that South Carolina fans should feel very reassured in that. And that is a great thing. So congratulations to him, another pickup for South Carolina, and a guy that we are excited to see what he can bring to the table and how he can develop as a player under the coaching staff at South Carolina. All right, we continue to look ahead as we get ready for some of these upcoming commitment dates. And one that really stands out is coming up this Saturday. Kasi Barnes, four-star cornerback from Greensboro, will commit this weekend. And he's been a guy that South Carolina has been going after for a long time. Where do you feel the Gamecocks stand with this one? They've got some tough competition for Barnes, Wes.
Yeah, Barnes, a late riser, landed almost all these major offers in the spring once word got out about who he was as a player. South Carolina, among those same schools that saw him in the spring, offered the scholarship, got him in on an official visit. Kind of an interesting Final Five, Final Six here. I don't really have a great feel for maybe who the biggest contender is other than South Carolina. I think maybe Kentucky heavily involved here, Rutgers heavily involved, North Carolina has offered him, and Mississippi State has gotten involved. But I do think going into the announcement that South Carolina should feel pretty good. And this is another kid that fits that same mold. He's got some length to him, tall, athletic, maybe a little bit raw, but of course, Torian Gray always feels like he can develop guys into a more complete player once he sort of gets his hands on them. So kind of similar to a Judge Collier, I think, who came in, again, a little bit under the radar. Kasi actually probably has way more attention on the recruiting trail than Judge did at the time. But just in terms of the player you're getting, some similarities there between Kasi Barnes and the current Gamecock Collier. So Gamecocks will be hoping, and again, I think they are in a pretty good spot to add Kasi Barnes on Saturday.
Well, we'll see what happens. As always, head over to GamecockCentral.com. We'll keep you up to date with everything that you need to know, not only in the recruiting world, but just across South Carolina athletics in general. Will be another busy week for South Carolina, but things looking a little bit more promising over this last week with the commitment, obviously, of Landon Duckworth and Triston Lewis. So you're feeling a little bit better because there were a couple of weeks there where I think people were a little bit stressed about what was going on recruiting wise. You felt like South Carolina was missing some guys here and there, but starting to, even things out a little bit. And as always, we'll keep you updated over on GamecockCentral.com. So we appreciate all of you joining us here on the Recruiting Rundown. We'll be back with more, keeping you up to date as always. We hope you have a great rest of your day, a great rest of your week, and a fantastic weekend. So for Wes Mitchell, I am Kendall Smith. This has been the Recruiting Rundown here on Gamecock Central, and we'll see you soon. Bye.